Welcome back to the deep dive. We have a really fascinating stack of research to get through today. We're looking at leadership, but probably not the way you learned it, in business school, and definitely not how most of us experience it. I just want to start with a quick exercise. If you picture a leader, what's the first image that comes to mind?
For almost everyone, it's an archetype,
Yeah.
right? It's the person in the corner office. It's the rank, the authority, the person calling the shots.
Exactly, the top of the pyramid. But today, we're basically dismantling that entire image. We are doing a comprehensive dive into the philosophy of Simon Sinek. And what struck me right away in the sources is that Sinek, he isn't a CEO. He's not some ex-Wall Street guy. He's an ethnographer.
And that distinction is everything. It's the whole key. An ethnographer studies culture.
Yeah.
He studies human tribes. So when he looks at a company, he's not seeing an org chart. He sees a tribe. He sees a bunch of human animals trying to survive together.
Which, sounds a little abstract until you realize just how much of our quote-unquote professional behavior is really just primal instinct. So our mission today is to decode his three huge concepts: the golden circle, the circle of safety, and the infinite game. We're going to figure out why some bosses inspire total loyalty and others, well, they just manage tasks.
And we're going to do it by looking at the biology behind it all. Sinek's whole argument is that leadership isn't management theory. It's about hacking our own brain chemistry to create trust.
Okay, so let's start with the one that really put him on the map, the golden circle. Most people have probably seen that TED Talk. It's one of the most popular of all time, but let's go a little deeper. He draws three circles, one inside the other. The outside one is what?
Right. The middle is how, and right in the center of the bullseye is why.
And his big observation is that almost every single company communicates from the outside in. They start with what?
Of course. It's the easiest thing to talk about. We make computers, we sell coffee, we're a law firm.
Then maybe they get to the how, their special sauce. Our computers are user-friendly. Our coffee is ethically sourced.
And they usually just stop right there.
Yeah.
They figure the why, the actual purpose is, just to make money. But Sinek is so clear on this. Profit is not a why. It's a result. It's like fuel in a car. You need it to go, but the purpose of a road trip isn't to buy gas.
The why is the belief, the cause. And this isn't just poetry. This was the big aha moment for me in the research. It lines up with the physical structure of our brain.
Yes, this is the part people miss when they call this stuff fluffy. The outer circle. The what? Corresponds to our neocortex.
That's the new part of the brain, evolutionarily, the rational part.
Exactly. It handles language, facts, data, all that stuff. But the why and the how, they correspond to the limbic brain.
The lizard brain, right, the emotional center.
The gut feeling part.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker. The limbic brain is responsible for all decision-making. All of it. But it has no capacity for language.
Wait, really? None at all?
Zero. That's why we have phrases like, I can't put it into words, it just feels right. All this your limbic brain making a choice, and your neocortex is just struggling to explain it after the fact.
So when a company just lists specs and features, they're talking to my rational brain. I understand the words, but it doesn't make me loyal.
It doesn't drive behavior. But when you start with why, you're talking directly to the part of the brain that makes the decisions. This is why that Apple example he uses is so perfect. If Apple was like everyone else, they'd say,
we make great computers. They're beautifully designed and easy to use. Want to buy one?
which is fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah, but it's boring. It doesn't make me want to line up outside a store for a phone.
Right. Now flip it. Start from the inside out. Start with why.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed. We just happen to make great computers.
It feels completely different. It's not a sales pitch, it's a manifesto. You're not buying a product, you're buying a piece of an identity.
You're joining a tribe. And people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And this isn't just for, giant tech companies. Look at Southwest Airlines. Their stock ticker is literally LUV.
Right. The research mentioned their why isn't about flying planes, it's democratizing the skies.
Exactly. Back in the day, flying was for the rich. Southwest's cause was to make it affordable for everyone. And when that's your why, it becomes a filter for every single decision you make. It explains everything about them.
And it changes how you hire people. This is a huge takeaway for anyone listening who's a manager. If you hire someone just for their skills, they'll work for your money.
But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they'll work for you with blood, sweat, and tears. You can teach skills. You can't teach someone to care.
Okay, so you found your why, you've attracted the right people, now they're in the building.
Yeah.
This brings us to the second pillar of his philosophy. Leaders eat last. And I assumed that was a metaphor, but it's not.
No, it's literal.
Yeah.
It comes from the U.S. Marine Corps. Sinek was visiting their base and noticed that in the mess hall, the most junior Marines always eat first.
And the officers eat last.
Always. And nobody told them to do that. It's not in a rule book anywhere. It's just the culture. It's a physical symbol that leaders sacrifice their own comfort for the good of their people.
And Sinek connects this back to that ethnographer view, back to the caveman days and the circle of safety.
Imagine it. You're living in the Paleolithic era. The world is full of dangers. Saber-toothed tigers, starvation, all these external threats. To survive, you form a tribe. That tribe is the circle of safety.
Because if I trust you to watch my back while I sleep, I can actually rest. If I don't, I'm always on edge.
And you can't be creative or innovative if you're constantly on edge. You're just trying to survive. Sinek says the modern workplace is exactly the same. We still have external threats, the competition, the economy.
But in a bad work environment, the danger isn't just outside, it's inside the circle.
That's the killer. When you're worried, your boss will throw you under the bus, or your coworkers trying to sabotage you. You don't feel safe.
And our bodies physically react to a bad boss the same way they'd react to a predator.
Precisely. We get flooded with cortisol. That's the stress hormone. It's for fight or flight. But when you have cortisol dripping into your system all day at your desk, it creates constant anxiety. And biologically, cortisol literally inhibits the release of oxytocin.
So oxytocin is the trust chemical. So stress literally blocks our ability to trust each other.
It chemically prevents it. So when a manager is yelling about needing more innovation, but they've created this culture of fear.
They're making it biologically impossible for the team to do what they're asking.
Exactly. Sinek also talks about the good chemicals. He splits them into two groups. The selfish ones, endorphins and dopamine, and the selfless ones, serotonin and oxytocin.
Dopamine is that feeling of accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
Checking something off your to-do list.
Yeah, hitting a goal. It's addictive, but it's solitary. You don't need anyone else to get a dopamine hit, which is why some amazing salespeople are terrible leaders. They're just chasing the next win.
You're dopamine junkies.
Totally. But real leadership is built on serotonin and oxytocin. Serotonin is pride. It's the feeling you get when your boss says, "Great job." And oxytocin is the deep stuff. Love, trust, real friendship. It's what lets us be vulnerable.
And you can't get that overnight. It's built through small, consistent acts, like really listening when you ask someone how they are.
And the case study that just drives this whole idea home is about a company called Barry Wemmeler. It's incredible. This was during the 2008 financial crisis. They're a manufacturing company, and they lost 30% of their orders almost overnight.
Okay, so the standard playbook says layoffs. Cut heads to save money.
The board told the CEO, Bob Chapman, exactly that. You need to save $10 million. Start laying people off.
Treating people like numbers on a spreadsheet.
But Chapman refused. He basically said, "We are a family. You don't fire your children." So instead, he created a furlough program. Every single employee, from him down to the interns, had to take 4 weeks of unpaid vacation.
And the way he announced it was just perfect. He said, it's better that we all suffer a little than any of us should have to suffer a lot.
He shared the pain. And the team's reaction was unbelievable. Morale went up. People started trading their furlough weeks. The ones who could afford it took 5 or 6 weeks. So a single mom on their team only had to take 2.
Wow. Strangers helping strangers.
Because the leader proved that he valued them as human beings. And they not only survived, they came back stronger because their team was loyal and intact.
It's just such a powerful story. But doing that, making that kind of choice, it requires you to think beyond the next quarter.
Which brings us perfectly to the third big idea, the infinite game.
Right. The difference between finite and infinite games. A finite game is like, football.
Exactly. Known players, fixed rules, a clear ending, someone wins, someone loses.
But business isn't football.
Not at all. Business is an infinite game. The players change all the time, the rules are bendable, and there is no finish line. There's no such thing as winning business.
Just like you can't win marriage, though some people really try.
And they usually end up divorced. That's the whole point. The goal in an infinite game is not to beat your opponent. It's to stay in the game, to keep playing. The problem Sinek sees is that most leaders are playing this infinite game with a finite mindset.
They're obsessed with beating the competition this quarter.
And that leads to terrible decisions. Look at Kodak. That's the classic tragedy he uses. Kodak owned photography. But they define themselves as being in the chemical film business, a finite definition. They actually invented the first digital camera in the 1970s.
Get out. Seriously. Seriously. But they buried it. They were scared it would hurt their film sales. They were trying to protect their current win instead of evolving to stay in the game. And they went bankrupt.
They played a finite game, and the infinite game just rolled right over them.
Now compare that to a company like CVS Health. In 2014, they decided to stop selling cigarettes.
Which had to be a huge financial hit.
$2 billion a year in revenue.
Hmm.
Just gone. Wall Street hated it. But the CEO said, our just cause, our why, is to help people on a path to better health. We can't do that if we're also selling poison.
That's what Sinek calls existential flexibility, being willing to make a huge, painful change to stay true to your cause.
And in the short term, yeah, they lost money. But long term, their stock soared. They became a trusted healthcare partner. They're still in the game and stronger than ever.
And part of playing that infinite game is having what he calls a worthy rival. I love this idea. It reframes everything. In a finite game, you want to destroy your competitor. In an infinite game, a worthy rival is a teacher. They show you your own weaknesses.
Yeah.
You don't hate them. You're almost grateful for them because they force you to get better.
So it shifts the focus from beating them to improving us.
Okay, I want to pause here for a second because
Okay.
we have to address the critiques. Is all of this a little fluffy? I mean, it's easy to talk about this stuff if you're Apple. What if you're running a coal mine?
It's a fair question, and yes, it's harder to apply in some industries than others. But Sinek would argue that's where it's needed most. Even if you can't offer massive perks, the basic human behaviors of respect, of listening, of building safety, those cost nothing.
What about the critique that it's very Western-centric?
That's also valid. The expression of leadership might look different in other cultures. But the underlying biology, that need for safety and purpose, that's human. That's universal. Okay, let's get super practical. Let's say someone's listening right now. They're a middle manager, and they're thinking, my company has no much. Why, my boss is a nightmare. What can they actually do?
He calls this the leader in the middle problem. And the advice is, you don't have to wait for the CEO to change. You can be the leader you wish you had.
You create your own subculture, a small circle of safety.
Exactly. For your 5 people or 10 people, you can be the reason they feel safe at work. You might not change the whole company, but you can change their world. And if the company doesn't have a why, find your own.
How would you even start to do that?
Look back at your career. Find the moments you felt the most alive, the most fulfilled, the common thread in those moments. That's your personal why. And you can bring that purpose to any job you do.
What about dealing with, say, Gen Z? There's this narrative that they're entitled or hard to manage.
Sinek pushes back so hard on that. He says they aren't entitled, they're just impatient for impact. They are natural, infinite players. They don't just want a job, they want a cause. If you give them a purpose, they will run through walls for you.
So the entitlement is really a hunger for meaning.
A hunger that so many companies are just not feeding.
So we've covered a lot. The golden circle, start with why. The circle of safety, protect your people. The infinite game, play to last.
If you boil it all down, it comes to this. Leadership is a choice. It is not a rank. The choice is, are you willing to look after the person to your left and the person to your right?
It's a shift from asking, what can I get from my team, to how can I help my team grow?
Which leads to the ultimate test of a great leader. As Sinek says, great leaders don't create followers, they create more leaders.
And that's the thought I want to leave everyone with. Look at your team. If you win the lottery tomorrow and just disappeared, would they crumble? Or have you built them up, given them a clear sense of purpose so that they could carry on without you?
Are you building a structure that depends on you, or a legacy that can outlast you? That's the whole game.
Something to think about. Thanks for diving in with us today.
My pleasure.